Alrighty, folks. So, welcome back to another weekly video here with Back to Divinity. This topic I'm very excited for. I think it is going to be super interesting to talk about with the collective, but also something that's very significant and important for our own development as, you know, people, but also as a collective. And so I know I talk a lot about how Back to Divinity's overall mission is, healing the collective. So therefore, that begins with healing the individual first, right? The thing that you can control. So that being said, today's topic is going to be highlighting certain themes in which you can control. And that is sex and spirituality, right? So the connection between these two things and discussing sex through a very spiritual lens. So here we go. Let's just dive right in. So first things first, Earth requires a lot of healing when it comes to sex. I know we've talked a lot about vibrations, right? And as a collective, we are elevating vibrationally, right? And this you can literally tell through the Schumann frequency. But also, there are a lot of areas within that, right, in which we can sense higher vibrations and things of that sort. Sex is something that has a very low vibration in society and is also one of our biggest blockages from getting to such a high vibration. So let's talk about it. There is duality in literally everything. So let's talk about the duality in sex. So the upside of sex is that it is literally such a sacred thing. It is something that is so beautiful, right? It is an intimate experience that people are sharing, right? That can literally lead to the creation of life, as we all know, right? It is something that brings connection, right? In such a way that like weaves physical with spiritual and energetic. And so again, something that is super sacred and super beautiful. And then the other side of it, right, is that it has literally become a tool for control and oppression. And we as a society all know the bad things that can happen when sex is used as a tool of control and oppression, right? And I don't want to dive too deep or trigger any folks with certain words, so we're just going to leave it there, right? There are literally many systems in place that have led to that being the thing and that being such a norm, right? And so that is part of the reason why vibration as a collective in relation to sex is so low. It's because it's been really talked about more on the side of control and oppression than it has been in a way that uplifts, right? We all know that there are many, many religions that will literally put sex to shame, right? And so that is also another downside to the duality of sex. So that being said, we must all do our internal work, our internal job to heal our relationship to sex, right? As a society, that can only happen as we start to do that individual work. So we're going to talk a lot about that individual work. First, let's talk about ancestral trauma, right? We all know, especially Black and Brown folk, especially women, how through time, right, looking at our lineages, sex was definitely used more as a tool of control and oppression than it was used as a sacred thing, right? And that being said, a lot of us are coming into this world already having sacral chakra blockages that we need to work through. That being said, let's unpack it. Let's stop for a second and talk about the sacral chakra. I know Back to Divinity has talked about it, but I'll dive in just in case if you aren't aware or up to date with it, right? The sacral chakra, the orange color that sits right here in your womb space, right above the root chakra, right? And right below that of the solar plexus chakra. So right here. It's no coincidence that it's sitting in your womb space, right? It holds ideas around sex, sexuality, right? But it also holds ideas around creativity and emotion, right? And so if you are noticing that for you, there is a blockage in how you express your sexuality, if there is a blockage in how you feel in relation to sex, if there is a blockage in your connection between your emotion and sex, those are wounds that you already know are indicators that there's something there that needs to be healed and something that needs to be worked on. Now, there are also experiences, right, that you can face, right, in this lifetime or previous lifetimes, right, that have led for you to now have wounds in that area to work through, right? I know for my own self, I had wounds that showed me that there was some sort of sacral chakra blockage and that there was something I needed to heal. So let's dive into some of these wounds, some of these indicators, right? I had a fear of intimacy growing up. I don't know where it stemmed from, right? I don't think it was necessarily from my experience growing up per se, but I definitely did have a wound there, right? I had a fear of intimacy. I had a fear with showing and expressing myself and my body in ways that, are more comfortable for other people, right? That wasn't something that came as natural to me. And so that being said, I knew that there was some sort of work that needed to be done, right? I felt that there was a level of unsafety when it came to sex, right? And that isn't the highest vibration of sex, that is the lower vibration of sex. And so for me, there was a lot of connecting lower vibrational perspectives to sex and sexuality and expression of the body, right? Other wounds can be literally addictions to sex. There are people who are literally addicted to it. There are literally addictions to porn, right? There is a fear of expressing yourself and your body, a fear of moving your body, right, through dance. Like those are all little indicators that there is some sort of sacral chakra blockage there. And so the other one, and I know I mentioned this earlier through religion, because I think this is part of the reason why a lot of people deal with shame around sex. Many people feel shame around talking about it, right? Which is why I was like, ooh, this video is going to be interesting, right? Shame around partaking in it at some point in their journey. Just shame generally around sex, even though it is something that is completely normal and something that is actually beautiful and really intimate and can be a strength to society. It's super important to tap into the higher vibrations of it, but you cannot do that until you work through the lower vibrations that you have attached to it, right? We must all get to a point where we can heal those wounds. And those wounds are going to look different for everybody, right? And some of these healing processes are going to take a long time. People have been trying to heal these wounds through lifetimes, through lineages, right? But it is super important, right, that you are doing the necessary work to heal it for yourself as much as possible, right? To lift the vibration that you have in association with sex and your body and your expression as much as possible, right? And it isn't an easy feat, right? I think that this is probably one of the hardest things to heal, but it is a trauma. It is a vibration that can be worked on and that can be healed, right? And it will be a roller coaster of a journey like any other healing journey. But it is super important that you work on it. You work on those wounds that you associated with it. And you work on questioning the perceptions and the perspective that you have around it and why you have such perspectives around it, right? And doing the internal work to shift it as much as possible, right? Because again, it is such a beautiful thing and can be worked on to get to that point, right? Another thing that is super important for me to highlight is that there are energetic ties through sex. It is the sacral chakra, right? And when you are sharing an intimate experience like that with someone else, it is super important that you understand that energies can be exchanged, right? If you find yourself engaging in intercourse with someone and afterwards you are feeling depleted in energy, question that connection. Really do it. If you are finding yourself feeling like your creativity ends up being blocked after said connection with someone, if you feel like your emotions are somehow being clouded after said connection with someone, not only should you look at yourself, right, because everything is a mirror, but you should also question that connection, right? Because energetic ties are a thing. I know that we all are taught through sex education in school about STDs, right? Sexually transmitted diseases. But let's talk about STDs in the spiritual sense, spiritually transmitted diseases. Those can actually be a thing and are very prevalent, right? And so it's very important that you're thinking about that as well. How is it that your energy is thrown off of balance? Not just, and sometimes your pH balance being off and things of that sort can be very, very big indicators, right? Of the fact that energetically something may be off. But it's super important to think about that as well. So be careful. But also, it's super important that I also end off the video, not just talking about, again, the lower vibrations of it and how we can heal it, but let's put a spotlight on some of the higher vibrations of sex. I'm going to highlight tantric sex. So tantric sex has the word tantra in it. And tantra literally means woven together, weaving the physical and the spiritual. Those are super important because that is the sacral chakra. That is what's happening when you are aligning all the chakras. So the whole idea is that tantric sex has a very meditative element to it, right? There's a lot of breathing and movement and alignment of the chakras within you and the other person, right? That allows for there to be such a connection and such a deep, intimate moment that aligns the physical, the spiritual, the emotional, right? And all of the above in such a way that is actually very empowering and allows for you to vibe at such a high level, right? And I'm sure that many of us have experienced this and don't have the word to describe it. Tantric sex, holy sex, as I like to say jokingly, right? Whatever it is, but try and tap into the higher vibrations of it, right? Not just the fact that it leads to life and creation of life. We all know that, right? but also the moment, right? What that moment does for one person and the other, right? When it is coming from such a high vibration. So lean into manifesting said sexual experiences. Manifest holy sex, as I like to say. Manifest tantric sex experiences. Manifest that, you can heal those wounds and attract such a high vibration of a sexual experience, right? And so, again, just to put a little context to everything that was discussed, sex and spirituality are super important. Our sacral chakra is very reflective of where we are in that journey, right? The more that we pour into healing those wounds, not only does it uplift us individually and make us stronger creatives and stronger people who are connected to our emotion, right? But it also uplifts the community and our vibrations as a collective, right? When it comes to sex. Again, there's duality in everything. And as a collective, we are stuck in the lower vibrations of sex because for so long it has been used as a tool of oppression and control. And there are ideas now around shame, so much shame in connection to it. And we need to heal those wounds and tap back into the higher vibration of it as much as possible. Realize that it is something that is so sacred and intimate and deep and powerful and empowering, right? It weaves the physical and the spiritual in such a potent way. And it is a beautiful experience when it is vibing at its most highest vibration, right? And so heal your wounds and work through it as much as possible. Start to become more comfortable having these conversations because it'll open up the door to healing, right? And once healing is had, then start to manifest what a spiritual sexual experience can look like for you, because that is the most beautiful way to share such an intimate bond with someone and possibly even create life from. Alrighty, folks, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this video. Again, it can make people uncomfortable, right? And of course, it can be something that is very triggering, but that is a part of the process of healing, right? And so it begins with that. Thank you so much for listening, and please share with others who can benefit from this video. And I am excited to see how we grow individually in this area and how it impacts the collective moving forward. Alrighty, folks, have a good one. Bye.